On to item 13.
Proposed lease agreement with Santa Barbara Arts Collaborative for Community Arts Workshop site at 631 Garden Street. Oh, and I will read this also. That council introduce and subsequently adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara approving and authorizing the administrator to execute a 25-year lease agreement with the Santa Barbara Arts Collaborative for the development and use of the city-owned property located at 631 Garden Street as a community arts workshop commencing upon the effective date of the enabling ordinance.
So this is the city administrator's office, and Nina Johnson is here. Ms. Johnson, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The item before council today is the approval of a 25-year lease with the Santa Barbara Arts Collaborative to operate the Community Arts Workshop. This is just a quick visual to give you from Garden Street the context of the site that we're talking about. This is an older photo during some construction. So for many years, the community has seen a need for an annual workshop space for the summer solstice activities, for floats, costuming, and all of the activities gearing up for summer solstice activities in the summer. And we've also seen a big need for a space for arts organizations to have flexible use of a facility, even if they have another facility elsewhere. So we looked at this site in 631 Garden Street. The site of the Ortega Water Treatment Plant was really a good fit. This is a site that has a lot of flexible options and space that meets the needs of arts organizations for storage, exhibits, classes, workshops, and so forth. Is there a few quick photos? 4 years ago, the City Council took two significant actions to basically move the Community Arts Workshop into the right direction. First, approving an initial lease with the Arts Collaborative, who would operate the facility and work with different arts organizations. And also, the City Council authorized $300,000 in one-time funding to complete the initial improvements for the building. The initial lease, the current lease that they're under, there's soil contamination on the site. So the initial lease addressed the soil contamination issues and outlined measures, mitigation measures to adhere to the soil mitigation plan, our soil management plan. And in one building, the south building, there was also a structural deficiency in the roof and electrical needs. So the initial lease really focused on these site constraints. So the initial lease was a 5-year lease, and we're in year 4 of that. It was 5 years or until certain milestones were met. And council set the series of milestones to demonstrate, for the Arts Collaborative to demonstrate the financial, the fundraising capability and capacity of the organization to complete the improvements and raise the funds to move forward with the site. And I'm just going to quickly run through those milestones because the Arts Collaborative has been very busy over the past several years and has really done a great job in addressing each of the issues called out for in the lease. Installing a vapor collection system in the north building, that is done, and ensuring all of the measures are met going forward in each construction effort. Design approvals were completed. They received all the required design approvals. They cleaned and painted all the interior walls. The signage was installed. Their electric service was upgraded. They installed the Garden Street gate that's very visible from Garden Street, and their next gate on Ortega Street is currently under construction. And their plumbing work is in for the public restrooms. So really, the restrooms are going to come as part of the next phase. I'm going to let the Arts Collaborative staff and board talk about the planned improvements coming next. In looking at the 25-year lease provisions, because council set forward that a short-term lease that once the milestones were completed could then transition to a longer term. What is proposed in the lease agreement is a $1 a year lease, so essentially a no-cost lease to the Arts Collaborative to operate the Community Arts Workshop plus utilities. adhering to all of the mitigation measures called out for in the soil management plan. We want to make sure that all of the measures, everything that was called out before, is still in place. And then sharing the site access with the Ortega Water Treatment Facility, making sure that both the Water Resources staff and the Arts Collaborative staff are in communication and coordination on the use of the treatment facility. We really want to make sure that the plant is operational, it's accessible in an emergency, it's accessible for maintenance activities into the future. The site can be used by a full range of arts uses, events, classes, the creation of art, storage, and so forth. And they've shown a great record of that so far in the past few years. To ensure that a broad range of arts organizations at different budgets can use the site, and that's really important, we worked on a provision in the lease to allow up to 12 commercial events per year. And that's really non-arts related uses could be allowed up to 12 times per year to offset what arts organizations would pay for the site, to help those who have a financial issue, just to make sure organizations of different financial capacities can use the site. And then also the other performance criteria is the site must be used by at least 20 arts organizations per year. With that, that concludes my presentation, and I was going to turn it over to Marianne Clark and Casey Caldwell from the Santa Barbara Arts Collaborative.
Thanks.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, I'm Marianne Clark. I'm the board president of the Santa Barbara Arts Collaborative. Joining me today are board members Leon Olson.
Pull your microphone up. Yeah, there you go.
Leon Olson and Jenny Brush, and our site manager, Casey Caldwell. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the City of Santa Barbara for all the support you've given to the Community Arts Workshop over the years. From the initial $300,000 grant that kicked off our construction to the visionary leadership of former Mayor Helene Schneider and current Mayor Kathy Murillo, and of course the support of many of the City Council members, including Greg Hart, who sat on our board for several years. And finally, I would love to thank the City Administration, especially Nina Johnson and Paul Casey, for all they have done to help us get to this point. We would not be here without all of you, and we thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to Casey Caldwell.
Mr. Caldwell.
Good afternoon. We wanted to mark this occasion by going back to where we began. This whole project began in 1985 with an arts master plan that was conducted by a task force for the city of Santa Barbara. That plan included the renovation of the Libero and Granada theaters, the creation of Center Stage Theater and Museum of Contemporary Art in Paseo Nuevo, and creating a community arts workshop to serve as shared workshop space for the arts community. Even in the 80s, it was recognized that it was getting harder and harder for artists to find affordable space to do their work and show their work, and of course that need has only grown more urgent. As Nina's already mentioned, another looming need was for a secure home for the Summer Solstice Workshop. Solstice is a foundational Santa Barbara tradition, yet each year the organization struggled to find an appropriate site to build the iconic parade. For several years, the city allowed Solstice to use its former mortar pool and recycling center at 631 Garden Street. In 2007, the Arts Collaborative was created to address a number of issues related to the broader arts community. Through grassroots efforts, the Arts Collaborative sought to fill the funding gap for small arts organizations and individual artists, and to create opportunities for collaboration and creativity. So with the advent of the Arts Collaborative, local leaders in the city envisioned a unique solution. With the Arts Collaborative's leadership, 631 Garden Street could become both the long-desired community arts workshop and simultaneously provide a reliable annual workshop for Solstice. And as Nina's already mentioned, we agreed to a 5-year provisional lease, and the city made a leadership grant of $300,000 to kick off the campaign. The Community Arts Workshop speaks to 3 needs: the increasing lack of affordable space for artists to do and show their work, the important role arts play in binding together and vitalizing a community, and the vital role arts play in the economic health of our community. The Community Arts Workshop speaks to all of those needs. By providing an affordable space for multiple simultaneous uses, the CAW creates what we like to call a public square for conversation, connection, innovation, and participation in the life of our community. To put it a little more simply, the CAW makes it a little bit easier to do art in Santa Barbara. Whether you want to take a dance class, or you've got a vision for a giant wing that will give voice to the voiceless, or you're a local theater kid with an idea for a festival, or you want to host a printmaking workshop for survivors of sexual assault, or you're doing a gallery show for local high school students. Whoever you are, it's a space our community can come together around art. We're actually given an ideal example of how the CAW allows art to bring the community together by the city itself. So as part of the city's effort to help revitalize State Street, Nina Johnson and others organized a community forum last November at the CAW to explore ideas for public art in the underpass. And with a combination of some extremely able facilitating and presenting and the nature of this space, that you're walking in off the street through David Shelton's incredible gates into this rough warehouse space you feel like you can do anything in, a space people come every week to create and imagine, it leads to these kinds of comments from Nick Welsh in The Independent. We're creating a new context for creativity. So we're already starting to see a fulfillment of the vision of the space. We've had over 30 distinct organizations in the last 3 years. All of these organizations were using a partially renovated space, so the amount of users and the diversity of users will only increase as we continue to make progress on the site. So how will the CAW operate? The CAW's low overhead allows us to make this space affordable across the spectrum. The $1 a year lease from the city of Santa Barbara is at the core of that model. We've also developed an efficient staffing model with low overhead, and we're not going to require a whole bunch of expensive equipment that requires staff time to operate and maintain. So if people want to bring in rent equipment, they can. If they want to do things more cheaply and simply, they can. The CAW is a rough workshop space in the heart of Santa Barbara you can walk right into from the street, where you'll find everything from break dancers to string quartets. There are no carpets. There are no barriers to entry. It's space for everyone, whether you're wearing muddy boots or dress shoes to get to work and get engaged. The CAW will be and is already becoming a space where you can come with some kind of a harebrained scheme and find ideas, find connections to resources, find help with outreach, a pool of volunteers. Diverse simultaneous use of the CAW's spaces for rehearsals, classes, shows, meetings, workshops, conferences, educational programs. It leads to new connections. It leads to collaboration. It leads to new ideas. The earned income from renting the space will allow us to sponsor projects, to run grant programs for artists, to create new programs that will lead to a healthier community through the arts. So where are we today? I'm not going to repeat a lot of the things that Nina's already addressed, but of course all plans have been approved and permitted. We've made a lot of progress with renovations. The restrooms that Nina mentioned will be done by the end of October. We're making some significant safety and structural improvements. We are raising an additional $1 million to complete all work on the site. That includes doors, heating systems, and lighting systems, new roofing and insulation, leveling and repaving, and landscaping of all exterior spaces. All of these improvements are really important for increasing the year-round functionality of the site, allowing us to accommodate more kinds of users and more users year-round. We're also raising a $2 million endowment, which will support innovative collaborations, fund outstanding art projects, and ensure that the space is accessible to artists and organizations at every financial level. One final example of the kind of programming endowments can support, the Santa Barbara Foundation funded a pilot artist residency program at the CAW this year. The first project, Going Home, taught theater skills to youth from Noah's Anchorage who were currently homeless or recently had been, and helped them create a play based on their experiences, which was performed for an audience of key stakeholders, politicians, and their family and friends. The second project, Print Power, 4 local printmakers collaborated with the Santa Barbara Rape Crisis Center and CARE at UCSB to host printmaking workshops for survivors of sexual assault and their loved ones. The prints were shown in an exhibition that was really remarkable for the diversity of experiences shown and the power of the art created. Many of these workshop participants had never shared their stories or opened up about them, which led to significant conversations and visibility for what's often a hidden issue. These programs exemplify the potential of this space to continue to generate innovative new programs and ways of bringing the community together. As you can see, the CAW is speaking to a true community need, thanks in large part to the very generous support of the city of Santa Barbara. You have empowered us and the artists of Santa Barbara to create something really beautiful at 631 Garden Street. We've got a lot of work still to do to build a space that can fully support Santa Barbara's incredible art scene year-round, but the generosity we've received from the city and the public gives us every confidence that we can fulfill the vision cast 30 years ago for the Community Arts Workshop. Thank you very much. I also want to make sure to mention that we are having a party to celebrate all of the progress that's been made on the project on November 4th from 3 to 5 p.m., and we would be honored if any of you would choose to attend.
We like parties.
Great.
So are there public speaker slips? So we'll go to questions at this point, or commentary. I do have a question. So you're allowed 12 events not related to arts. Have you done those? Is there a demand to use the space?
There has been demand, and we've, in fact, turned most of those requests down at this point due to restrictions on use of the site and wanting to focus on developing the true mission of the space. But yes, we have had requests for conferences. We've had requests for weddings. There's been a number of, requests for use.
How neat. Mr. Hart.
Yeah, I just want to, this is a really big day, and it's been a long time coming, and I spent a lot of time working with these incredibly creative, powerful, successful folks. I want to specifically recognize Mary Ann and Jenny and Leon for being there from the very beginning. The other board members obviously have worked really hard too, but you folks have held this vision and this flame and nurtured it to where we are today, where we get this real chance to give you the long-term commitment that's going to make it easier for fundraising, to help foster these collaborations. The strategic decision to hire Casey was brilliant. He has only exceeded expectations, and this little space is so powerful in our community for leveraging Solstice and all the community arts organizations that we can't even imagine that are going to germinate in this space and then thrive and expand for generations, pulling in people from across all sections of the community. It's really an extraordinary thing, and I know it has not been easy doing the fundraising, but you have really hit every mark that we've asked you to do. I know Leon has been a taskmaster in that regard and on the construction side, and it's just, I'm really proud to have played a little part in this and to be here today. To congratulate you and to look forward to the next 25 or 50 or 100 years of this space flourishing as an arts center in Santa Barbara. So if nobody else has a comment, I would love to make the motion to approve this lease extension.
Very good. And Mr. Dominguez is a second. And if I may add, I've spent a lot of time there through the Solstice workshop, and it's a community building event too. Young people and artists, and just, I know it's not all about fun, but we sure do have a lot of fun there. And Ms. Johnson held the meeting there for the underpass, and it was a perfect location for that too. It inspired people to be creative and come up with all different and unusual ideas for the underpass. And we're grateful to be in partnership with you. And we'll just go ahead and...
Madam Mayor, I did forget one thing that I do want to mention. I want to recognize David Shelton for his incredible gates. If you haven't been by 631 Garden Street, you should really see the unique, extraordinary, very special gates that David has designed and have been installed, one of which has been installed, the other one's in the process of being installed. This is the kind of thing that's going to end up ultimately on the LA Times with a beautiful color photograph saying, look what Santa Barbara did and look what the arts mean to Santa Barbara. And I also want to thank Santa Barbara Beautiful and the Santa Barbara Foundation for their generosity at really key early stages to help get this going and to sustain it. It's been very important, and it just kind of reflects well, I think, on the collaboration that this project really is.
Thanks. Mr. Gutierrez?
Thank you for the presentation. I just have a question. How much outreach have you done to the Spanish-speaking community?
Good question. Mr. Caldwell.
Yeah, that continues to be something that I'm working hard at. We've had conversations with folks from El Centro. The final arts residency project that I didn't have a chance to mention in the program is led by two Latino artists, Joe Velasco and Carlos Cuyar. So it continues to be something that we're trying to develop. The feedback I've gotten in particular from folks at El Centro was that their need in particular was for a space on the west side that was sort of situated in their community. I think the advantage of the Community Arts Workshop, it's right in the middle of the city, so it becomes kind of a meeting place for all kinds of people. So we're focusing on developing programming and offerings that speak to that. I think our biggest use by the members of our Latino community right now is VADA, which brings a ton of youth from Santa Barbara High and their families to the site. So I very much look forward to increasing those uses.
Well, let me know how I can help.
Love to talk to you. Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah. We had a good conversation with one of your former colleagues from City TV, where I know you used to work, I believe.
I currently still work.
Oh, good. All right, good.
CSP.
Yeah. So we talked
Yeah.
to, was it Courtney? I think.
Courtney?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk more.
Okay, sounds good.
Good. Thanks.
And you'll be supporting the motion, Mr. Gutierrez?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, very good. All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous, Madam Clerk. Thank you so much.